Program. Again, my name is Joe Masabni. I'm be sharing with you my research that we've been doing for the last umpteen years on Asian vegetables. Now, Asian vegetables doesn't mean, you think bok choy, that's what first comes to mind, but you have amaranths, they're Indian cuisine, and really now I would like to call it ethnic vegetable instead of Asian vegetable, because some people look at yard-long bean and then think that's not a typical bean, or Japanese eggplant. So think of it, Asian vegetable, really we have think of African or South American plant varieties that you should be trying. So looks like I'm not turning the camera off anymore. Okay. You're stuck watching me the whole time. All right, you're aware that Texas is big, and the climate is really 5 different climates in one state. So this map shows you the rainfall, and the rainfall changes from east to west. The highest is, oops, I can't go back. Can't go back. Sorry, recording is messed up. The highest, like 30, 40 inches per year in the east, down to 10, 12 inches in El Paso. Whereas the temperature range is south to north. Like here, you're almost subtropical to continental in the panhandle area. So we have a wide variety of regions. And we decided to do the work at 4 locations representing various different climates. El Paso, dry, Overton, that's east, humid and rainy, Uvalde, that's the winter garden, so that's really very well suited for that, and down here in Weslaco. Okay. So the Asian vegetables in the United States, here is an example of what you have. Like I said, bok choy is what you're familiar with. And by the way, sometime you may read bok choy, whatever it's spelled, it's all the same thing, okay? But you may not know that this is Chinese cabbage. It became so popular that they called it Napa cabbage. So it's more acceptable. It's better than Chinese cabbage. Now it's called Napa cabbage. Edible amaranth, sorry, that's it in here. Edamame, you're familiar with that. The edible soybean, yard-long bean. I love yard-long bean. We should all grow it. And all kind of oriental eggplants. Indian are becoming popular. You may have seen the round eggplant, that's white color, that's very popular. And it's tender skin, you don't have to peel the skin. I like the Asian eggplant, like these kinds, because the skin is so tender, you don't peel it. You should try them. And I don't mean switch cuisine, take a Chinese recipe and cook it and eat it. I don't do that. You're familiar. You like certain diet because that's what you're familiar with. But what I suggest is, instead of using regular cabbage, take the Chinese cabbage, chop it, cook it with your spices, with your own recipe, and then try it. Is it exactly 100% same taste as the regular cabbage? Of course not, but you cannot tell with all the spices and the tomato and the salsa and spices, or olive oil, garlic, whatever we add. Okay, so it is they have different nutritional content, and it just makes life easy. Now, personally, I love bok choy, but I have trouble eating that white part. It's just too crunchy. It's like you have to be a hardcore Asian to enjoy it, or get used to it. Too crunchy. So I usually take the green part. And there's another bok choy variety called tatsoi that grows flat like spinach. And actually, when we cook it and we invite friends over, we tell, oh, this tastes, what is that? I tell them spinach. And then eat it. At the end, I tell them, oh, that was tatsoi Chinese cabbage. And really, wow, that was good. just to remove that mental block that some people say, well, really, I just can't, and they already hate it, make themselves hate it. So that's why I said we are all capable of trying new things. You just have to make that first step and try it. Okay, but now, edible amaranth is, again, you cook it and you tell someone it's spinach, it's just and very nutritious. All of these leafy greens, maybe except the eggplant, are more nutritious than a tomato, than a cucumber, than a squash. The leafy greens are more nutritious than the fruiting vegetables. Okay, tomato is a fruit, cucumber is a fruit, cabbage is a fruit. By weight to weight ratio, the leafy green are more nutritious. Unfortunately, in the summer, what are you eating? You're eating fruits, tomato, cucumber, squash, eggplant. You're not eating many leafy greens. That's why edible amaranth or water spinach, I think it's called, that is something that grows in the summer. It will not grow in the cool weather. It grows in the summer and satisfies that nutrition that you need instead of eating, tomato and eggplant and squash. Okay, and here's more. You've heard of daikon radish or Korean radish. This is the close to the tatsoi. It looks like spinach. It tastes like spinach. I've never tried that. Bitter gourd, that is something I really need an Indian recipe to really enjoy it. I haven't found, I'm not gonna cook it. I need someone to cook it for me to try it, because you always mess it up. There's an art in cooking ethnic food that you're not familiar with. You gotta do it right. Bottle gourd, of course, that can be ornamental or edible. Loofah. Loofah, anybody grows loofah? Loofah for what? For to wash with, scrub with it? Well, when it's still immature, like an inch and a half thick and long, that's when they eat it. You chop it, you cook it, and it'll taste like bitter gourd or taste like any squash. So it is edible. I grow it for to wash with, but no, it's just as edible. Mustard green is an example. Mustard green, well, we're familiar with mustard green, but there are different varieties from different countries. Like even think of it like parsley. You have Italian parsley, and then you have Algerian parsley. You don't know that unless you read the details of where it came from. But it may taste a little different, or the leaf size a little different. Same thing with many of these vegetables. Open your mind that they are there. And look how many different kinds of eggplants that I've tested. Some are like 8-ball, and their new varieties are called 8-ball or white 8-ball, and are green, or even they remain green. I like that Indian variety, remain green, because it takes longer to produce, so it's seasonal. You plant 3 different kinds. They're not all there producing at the same time. Because only one thing you don't want is to have a bushel of eggplant every day, and what do you want to do with it? You're sick of eggplant, and even your neighbors are sick of eggplant. They see you coming, they hide under the bed, and turn off the lights. They don't want any more eggplants. So I like that, the Asian, the green, the Indian, and then the white eggplant they produce at different times, and then this way you never run out. And we know that the demand is increasing. We have the increasing population of Asians, increased interest in healthy diets. And the world is becoming smaller. Now you go online, you can get recipe of any world or a YouTube video to watch any cuisine from the world and then you watch. So that is facilitated the interest. You may not have that here, but at Dallas we have multiple Asian stores where you just go in there, and there's one for Chinese and one for Korean and one for Japanese. You think you're in China when you go in there. It smells like fish everywhere, and all the Asian vegetables. There is the world, I guess, is getting smaller. Okay, look at the population growth between 2000 and 2012. 10% U.S. Asians, that's all the U.S., 30% increase. In Texas, a 70% increase in population. And I don't know what that's hidden behind here. I forget that statistics. So there is increasing. Next to Hispanic, Asians are the highest increase in overall U.S. But in Texas, Asian is still higher. Go figure. All right, so how do you grow it? You'll see and you'll learn that it's easy to grow. You can grow it as a baby bok choy, like a small plant that can be harvested in like 30 days, or you can grow it as a much more bigger plant and a different spacing. Here you don't have freezing weather. Like, do you ever see 9 °F? We had 9 °F 3 weeks ago. So you can grow it. So here, your winter, your 6 months of the winter, I think you can grow it outside, no problem. It's maybe in the heat and the long days that way, if you grow it, it's gonna bolt, shoot up and make flower heads quickly. So you have 6 months of window. Like right now, you can grow it, but with this rain, and I heard sandy loam, salt, the Hidalgo sandy clay loam. If you have a lot of clay, then you have to make a raised bed, or in the garden, elevate them so that they don't drown. Because none of the plants I know, vegetables, like wet feet, sitting in water too long. But you have sandier soil and it drains well, then you'll be fine. But no matter what, I always advertise the use and encourage everybody to use compost, okay? Plant-based compost. Compost is like magic, okay? You have clay soil that does not drain, you add compost, it'll drain it. It'll drain better. You have sandy soil that does not hold any water, like in East Texas, you may get an inch of rain and next day you can drive the field with a tractor. It drains so fast. You have sandy soil that does not drain, you add compost, it'll hold water longer. So it's like magic. And if you have high pH, you add compost regularly, it will drop the pH for you. You have sandier with lower pH, you add compost regularly in 2 or 3 years, it'll gonna raise it up and you'll see like 6.8. It's really like magic. And compost is plant-based compost. You don't have a barn and then you clean the manure and the straw and compost it and call that compost. No, that's fertilizer. You put an inch, you burn your plants. But plant-based compost, put 6 inches, the plants will love you for it. Because like a slow-release fertilizer, and it has all the microorganisms, the fungi, the mushrooms that are rotting and breaking it down, releasing the nutrients to the plants. Okay, so my golden rule that I tell everybody, commercial grower, maybe it's not that cheap, so they don't do it, but homeowner, my golden rule is the last thing you want to do before planting is add compost. And I don't mean like wait for that raised bed to be empty. No, you remove one plant, one tomato, and you want to put a pepper plant to replace it, put compost in that spot. Okay, so if you do that, that's very well. And here's some information on how you can grow them. Okay, so from early spring through midsummer, that's really more for our location. I think here you have to decide of when the soil temperature is not going to be 70 or 75 or and not very long days. So maybe fall over the winter and spring, that is probably your growing season. Okay, they will, so they're suitable for fall sowing in mild climate. I am growing them right now in the Dallas area, but when it reached 9 degrees, I knew they're gonna go. You put a small tunnel over them, yeah, that's cute. It's not gonna, it'll warm it up 5-6 degrees. It's still 13, 14. It's not gonna protect it. The only way to protect them is to put a foot of straw on them and then cover that straw, that bed with foot of straw and cover that with plastic, then that's good insulation. I don't have enough straw to cover my 50 by 60 foot garden, so I said goodbye. I'll plant another time. But if you're not, if it's gonna reach 30, 28, you may have some little leaf edge burn, you'll be fine. If you don't gonna have any, those low temperatures, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. You can grow them as long as you don't have severe low temperatures. Now, if the seedling, you plant it outside, and again, do you have often 50-degree temperatures here? No. Okay, then you don't have to worry about bolting. Because if you plant it in the spring where we are, and then it's cold for multiple nights, it goes down to the 40s, well, that tells the plant, make flowers. So it's gonna bolt. You know what, bolting, right? It's shoot to make flowers, okay? So that, if you don't have that, you don't have to worry about it, okay? Those temperatures. So really, you're really well suited for this. Now, your 6-month production, but I can assure you, you're gonna have more issues that we don't have. You're gonna have more insect pressure, and you're gonna have more disease pressure, okay? And you'll see what are some of the problems. Bottom line is every bug likes the bug, all the Asian vegetables. Every insect loves them. Okay? So this is from Johnny's Seed website. I like Johnny's website because they give you some information. It's very close to what we recommend, but it has that bok choy comparison chart. I'll show you what it means. And how to transplant them, and what kind of insect problems. Row cover here is that white matted row cover, looks like felt, like fabric. That I think very highly recommended to use, especially if you in the summer, like late summer, early spring, when you start planting and there's all kind of bugs outside. It acts like a physical barrier and protects them. Once it cools down and then the insect pressure is less, then you can remove it. It lets enough light in so they can still grow. Okay, sow 15 seed per foot and then thin. That's too much work. So I always like to work with transplants. This way you know exactly you're working with a healthy plant and you're putting exactly the spacing that you want. Whether 3 inches apart for baby bok choy or 6 inches or more if you want bigger plants. If you have a seeder and you can calibrate it and you can put them every 3 inches, fine. But I've learned, and microgreens are becoming very popular, that if you do seed them thick and you thin them, here you have instant microgreen that you can eat. And I mean, I used to advertise, seed thick and thin them, and then you have instant salad. And nowadays, I don't have to say that anymore. Microgreens are becoming popular. And the seedling, the nutrition in the seedling is more than the nutrition in the mature plant. The broccoli seedling that we use in the microgreen has more nutrition per gram than the broccoli head that you wait and harvest. So if you seed thick and you thin them, instant salad. And don't worry about cutting the roots out. Just wash it and cook it all or eat it all. Those roots are small and crunchy and bland. I mean, there's really no taste, so not gonna change the taste too much. Less work, more nutrition. And this is the bok choy comparison chart. Tells you how big they are, days to harvest, the color, the stem color. So you have white stem, you have green stem, you have taller plant, and even something that looks like Asian Chinese cabbage with white stem. And then some are flat, like I told you, grows like a prostate, like on the ground. There's all kind of vegetables. What I advise you, anytime you look at a catalog and you're deciding this days to harvest is important, this way it kind of tells you, hey, how many do I have? I mean, we are limited. I mean, in the winter, before spring and summer, and before it gets too hot, how many times I can plant before I harvest? So should I want 30, 35 days? And I plant 4 of them, or go to 50 and then I'm stuck with 2. 2.5. So days to harvest helps you with the plant. And of course, in the fall, when we have a killing freeze, again, in the fall, when we plant, that is important to decide, can you plant 2 or 3 crops before the killing freeze comes and gets them? So that's why I like Johnny Seed, because they have educational information, plant spacing for full size, and plant spacing for mini size, okay? So that's, all right, so where are we? That's organic. It's sold, they sell it organic. But for you, by the same name, that's not organic, because you're not certified and you're not selling it as organic. The seed is the same. It's the same seed. It's just how they produced it, and it's organically method, so it costs more. Why? It's not going to be healthier for you. It's still the same seed. Okay, so. Yeah.
No. Shade cloth is for sun, roll cover is also shades, but also better for avoiding freeze. So that frost or cool temperatures or hot temperatures. Like you want to plant in the fall and still warm and sunny, and the soil, when you want to transplant, put that fabric or shade cloth, same thing, they will shade the plant, reduce the stress when it's still late summer, early fall. Okay, you have shade cloth, you should be fine. The fabric does both, cold and heat protection. The shade cloth only heat protection because it shades it. Okay, and as good idea of, she mentioned that she put her shade cloth on PVC, and that's the way to use it. If you put anything,
that fabric cover to protect it from the cold right on top of the plant, you're not doing any benefit.
You need that air pocket trapped underneath it to trap the warm air overnight and keep it warm, okay? Same thing with shade cloths. You put it right on top of the plant, it's not doing anything.
Is it a specific cloth? Like what kind of cloth?
This fabric is a specific fabric. The brand name, you may want to write that down if you like, called AgriBond.
So you can search AgriBond or search row cover or AgriBond, AGRIBON. You can search and you'll see what I mean by that. It's not any fabric. Now, where we are and we have severe frost, I go to the fabric store and get pajama fabric, that material, and then I put that. It works the same thing, okay, for freeze protection. Yeah, but even then, if it's going to reach 9 degrees, good luck.
I have a question.
Yes.
What about
Insect netting? Oh, insect netting is great.
If you have that issue.
That's why I told you here you have issue of more pressure of insects. If you use insect netting, that also gives you some shading. Also. No, you also need some space. Yeah, over it always. Okay, and here are pictures of various ethnic vegetables grown inside the high tunnels or greenhouse. And these I've received from California, so there's more awareness, more growing for local clientele. I mean, I tell everybody, hey, everybody at the farmer's market is growing the same vegetables. If you have Asian population, then grow things for them and sell at the farmer's market, but find a way to advertise, let them know you are there, okay? And then so that they get what you want. I have an American farmer, not an Asian farmer that I work with, and he said they love the white eggplants. Everybody. I told him Asians. He said, no, everybody is buying the white eggplants because they say it's tender. You don't have to peel it. It cooks well. It doesn't get mushy if you overcook it. So he's going to plant more. So hey, you make money. Anybody becomes a convert. Yeah. All right. So we did trials in El Paso and hydroponically, and we were able to grow them inside the greenhouse year-round. Now, a greenhouse is not a high tunnel. Okay, and you know the difference between the two? It's not the shape or one is plastic and the other one is glass. No, the greenhouse has heating and cooling. If you don't have heating and cooling, it's a high tunnel. Okay, you don't actively heating and actively cooling. You just open the sides, open the doors, passive cooling, and then you put shade cloth to cool it, or you close the sides on a cool night and you to keep it warm. So that's a high tunnel. You have fan, you have wet wall, you have a heater, then that becomes a greenhouse. So in a greenhouse, you can grow Asian vegetables anywhere year round. Okay, because temperatures, even our temperatures can reach 89 inside, but because of the fan and the shade and all this, we can grow it year round without bolting, even in the Dallas area. Okay. Now here you have 3 types of hydroponic systems: nutrient-filled technique, the NFT. All the lettuce, the hydroponic lettuce that you find in the store are grown in this system. Basically, it's a small channel at a slope, and then the water pours here, and then a nutrient solution, and then runs down, and then goes back to the tank here, okay, at the other end. So the roots are always continuously getting soaked with that nutrient solution. Okay, ebb and flow, the plants are in a pot and sitting in that tub, and then the pump fills it up. So they are sitting in a pot. Imagine this is sitting in the pot, and then they soak up and absorb it from the bottom up, and then the pump shuts down after 3 minutes and it drains.
So again, you don't need an air pump here, you don't need an air pump here because the roots are exposed to water. This one, you see the pink, that's a foam, insulation foam you get from Home Depot. You don't have to buy the expensive kind. You cut holes, put the cell in it. The roots are swimming in water. So to avoid those rotting, you have
to add an air pump, like an aquarium pump for your fish aquarium, and then it's pumping air and the roots will rot. And that's easy to harvest
because you pull the plant, remove the roots, and eat it. This doesn't need soil, this doesn't need soil, media, potting mixed media. This one does. And so here's the close-up of the ebb and flow, or it's called flood and drain. If you see something online, read flood and drain, same idea, because it floods it, and this soaks it up, and then it drains. And you see here we have different kinds of ethnic vegetable. This is the deep water culture. So you have like 6-7 inches of water, and that's floating on water, and the roots are sitting in water. Yes, ma'am.
For those 3 systems, are they all equally as efficient?
Are they what?
Equally as efficient?
Are they equally as efficient? Well, depending, if you add electricity, if you add
this, then no, they're not equally as efficient because the NFT, the pump is running 24 hours a day, the NFT on off, so less electricity
usage. But efficient in terms of how much fertilizer you use and how much you harvest, then there are very little differences between them. Yeah, electricity is the only thing that can be different. So here's a close-up. So you do need, for the deep water culture, you do need a net cup. It's called a net cup, okay? A cup looks like a net. You want to make your own or whatever. So anyway, it sits in there. You don't have to buy the expensive rock wool. Have you heard the Grodan material? Looks like cubes, rock wool. You don't have to buy that. You can fill it with potting mix or take that transplant and put it in there and it'll be fine. It's not gonna fall apart and get in the system. That's no problem. This is homemade, really, and here is even more homemade to show you that you don't have to get that fancy, expensive rectangular. You can get a kiddie pool and fill it with nutrient solution and put your plants and it'll grow well. Now, science tells you that cold water holds oxygen longer than warm water. So this time of year, in the winter and fall, you can grow all of these without having to add an air pump, and they will not rot because there's still enough oxygen in the water because the water temperature is cold. But the same lettuce, you put it in the summer when the water temperature is 80, good luck, they will rot. Not enough oxygen and they will rot. Okay, so like you see, all of these don't have an air pump in them, and look, they're growing all kind of lettuces and bok choys and all kind. Okay, so we did all kind of. This is the objective of the trial, like I showed you, trying them at the 4 locations in Texas. In El Paso, we tried all the Chinese cabbage and bok choys, and you know, we were really. Do I like one versus the other, or did one perform better than the other? We don't see any of that, okay? It's what you like. Do you want more white stem, or you want the crunchy stem but green, more nutrition, or you don't want stem at all? That's what decides what variety you like. Because unlike fruit trees, like an apple tree for Michigan will not grow here, not enough chilling hours, if you've heard of that. Vegetables don't have that. Okay, you can grow the same thing as long as you meet minimum requirements of the plant, or trick the plant into thinking that the spring in Michigan, our winter here is the same as spring in Michigan. So hey, let me grow broccoli in the winter here because it's really like spring in Michigan. But you cannot grow same broccoli in the summer here. It's too hot, but they can grow it in Michigan because it's not that hot and night are cooler. So anyway, we did some field trials, and we grew, and I'm not going to read all the numbers, but I just want to show you that percent survival, some did better than others when they were planted at this date. So because we did 3 different planting dates, so early, mid, and late. So this variety of Chinese cabbage did not like early planting because it was still hot, okay? Because they went into flowering, okay? But mid or late, they did better yield. They did better yield. Whereas the bok choys did not matter when you planted them, but definitely later, less sunlight, less heat will reduce the flowering stage. So if you want to do that, so the answer to this is in those conditions, you know, like El Paso, is plant early, but harvest them as baby bok choy. So plant them like 3 inches apart and harvest them when they are this tall, which they can get there in like 2 weeks, instead of the Chinese cabbage wanted to get that big in 2 months, and then it's not going to do it because it's going to flower. So plant early, thick, plant late, spread them out, and this way you have large and mid plants and all this, okay? So the yield was acceptable. That is never an issue. It's never an issue, really. It's insect pressure that reduces the yield, or disease that reduces the yield. And of course, sandy soil, beautiful plots. This is in El Paso. You should go, definitely different climate. We did another experiment, and you see how fast they can grow. 3 weeks in the pots, in the greenhouse. Some of these are ready to go. I mean, like ready to harvest as baby plants for harvesting. That's why if you have a high tunnel or a greenhouse, you can grow it year round. If you want to do that, then I recommend some hydroponic system because it's cheaper. The labor, the media, putting media, removing the media, it's hydroponic operation is cheaper than doing something like this. Filling the flats, harvesting the flat, dumping the soil if you don't want to recycle it. So then you have to make a business decision, but they all work. Okay, so in the second study, we looked at survival and we looked at insect pressure. Where is tatsoi? Tatsoi, that's the one I told you looks like a spinach. 1+, so these 5 had less insect pressure than these 2. So if you want to try, the lesson from this is that if you want to try a new crop, buy 6 or 7 or 10 different varieties and then plant 2 or 3 each to see for your local conditions and for your management practices, which one did better, which one, and then one flowered, and which one had less insect, which one had more insect problems, okay? Because yes, you can grow the broccoli from Michigan, you can grow it here, But here we have different insect pressure, so maybe that variety may not be well suited to switch to another variety that may be more insect tolerant. So be your own scientist. Don't pick one broccoli or one tomato. Plant 10 different tomatoes, one plant each, and then see which one did best for you. Okay, same thing, like I will take the ones that have 1+ instead of the 3+ if I want to plant them outside in this situation. Okay, and we measured how sweet they are, 2.5% and 3%. You cannot tell that with your taste buds. I mean, if you think that honey is 15%, no, 20%, watermelon is 12% sugar, you cannot taste the difference between 2.5% and 3%. If you are, then you are one of those 0.1% people that are excellent taste bud, and you should be a chef. But the average person cannot tell the difference between 2.8 or 3.1. Okay, we did have insect pressure, and this is what we called 3+. You see the holes, almost every leaf has a hole. This is the tatsoi. See how the tatsoi looks flat like a rosette? So that has very little stem that I don't like, other people love, and kind of looks like spinach and tastes like spinach. This is less few, and the minimal, like one occasional here. And what is this damage? That's your cabbage looper. Cabbage looper is not racist, will eat the Chinese cabbage as much as will eat the regular cabbage. Okay, so because it's a cabbage looper, it loves that taste. And actually these leaves are more delicate, softer than a cabbage head. So, or even the green parts, the green leaves of a cabbage head, so it likes them more. Is it easy to control insects when they are this crowded? Good luck trying to reach with your insecticide every nook and cranny there. So when you plant, drench it with BT, and then spray, or any insecticide, neem oil, horticultural oil, because you want to protect it. Protect them, because once it goes there and it can hide, and you can spray and it doesn't reach it, good luck. Commercial growers, when they have an air jet sprayer, you like to spray in a strong mist and the plants are shaking and they can reach every corner, then they have good effective control. But with a backpack, you can't. So you have to prevent it, the infestation early before they move in. Okay. Why did I say you've heard of BT? BT is a great insecticide. It's organic. But it only kills worms, okay? The larva, the worm stage. It will not kill a beetle. It will not kill a grasshopper. Okay, so even the worm, when it matures and hatches into a moth, BT is not effective anymore. It only kills the worm stage. White flies are also important because it's in a greenhouse, protected environment. Cabbage looper. So here is that monster there. Or armyworms, you know. So in the fall here, if you have armyworms, then you should put a insect netting or that fabric, better than a shade cloth, because it's a physical barrier to prevent the armyworm from cutting them. And it seems that armyworm, when it's a seedling, they do it to spite you. They just cut the seedling and then move. Like, okay, cut it and eat it. Cut it and then move and cut the other one, cut the other one. Like, you hate me? Did I? Exactly. All right, we also did a trial in Overton, and this is a side note, but if you ever grow seedlings and it's a little bit warm, and you have tall seedlings like this, anybody had that problem? It's just a little bit warm, so lower the heat or move them outside, whatever. That's not garbage. It's a little bit extra work. I transferred them into bigger cell, deeper cell. So when I added potting mix and covered them, now it looks like a beautiful seedling. A little bit extra work, and I cursed myself every single one doing that. You know, it's a lot of work, but hey, we gotta do the experiment and you learn. So no fertilizer. If you're fertilizing, just fertilize once when you see cod leading, or even none, and reduce the temperature, and that will avoid this elongation in the seedlings. Okay, and we planted all kind of varieties, and we planted them outside, both, 6x6 spacing to get small plants, and now I can found that I can go even 3x3 or large plant spacing, 1x1 spacing. Okay, this is a open leaf Chinese cabbage, so it does not form the head. It's open leaf, which is great because you can harvest. I mean, let's say here I have 9 plants, and if you take 2 leaves from each plant, that's a meal. But the plant's still growing, and then you can harvest later. And so you don't. I mean, any of these, you take the oldest leaves and then make a meal. The plant is still there. It does not have to be cut and grow. So even if you know they're gonna bolt, harvest as the plant is growing, and when it bolts, remove it and throw it. You got 2 or 3 meals. Don't wait till it harvests. You gotta think differently. Okay. So this way you have fewer plants instead of having, let's say, 3 plants for every meal, and I want to have 5 meals. That's 15 plants. You can eat 5 or 7 meals with 3 plants only, if you, or 4 plants if you harvest few leaves at a time, and it's growing well. So here's the open leaf, and see, this is. Sorry, I can't go back, but this is the large plant spacing ready for harvest. Of course, we had 90 Fahrenheit the same day after I took a sample to do test on them inside. The next night, it dropped to 19 Fahrenheit. And they are cold tolerant. They are cool season crops. But go from 70, night of 40 or 45, next night to 19, they don't go well. If it slowly dropped every night, let's say 40, next night 39, 30, 35, 32, 20, 19, they would have survived better. But that big shock, they're not adapted. Now, also keep in mind that when we say cool season crop or cold tolerant crop, it does not mean that they only grow at cold temperature or cool temperature. No, a bok choy or a cabbage will grow next to a tomato when it's 80, 85, okay? They tolerate the cold, but that same cabbage and tomato, if it drops slowly in the fall to 32, the cabbage is alive, the tomato is dead. They tolerate the cold. It doesn't mean they need the cold to grow. No, they all need nice 70, 75, 80 degree to grow at full speed. So anyway, they dropped to 19 and they had this wilting. I thought, they'll grow out of it, but a lot of them did not. And they froze in there. So this is just differences in yield from those 3 plant samples. Again, nothing significant. When you talk to a commercial operation or a buyer, this is never an issue because they reach their full potential. This is just showing you what they can reach at. 1 month after the freeze, that field is all dead. The only thing that was still alive was mâché. Anybody heard of mâché? It's becoming more, or corn salad. That's becoming more popular. It's a European ethnic vegetable, I guess. So, okay. So, and it's the following year, I did 3 plantings. Okay, and I wanted to see, and I call them. Early. The first planting is early. The second planting is late, what I'm calling late planting. And then the high tunnel, which matched the second planting. Again, to teach our growers what we'll do. So that some of that information can be applicable for you because that high tunnel, if you put shade cloth, can overcome your hot temperature. You can plant earlier in the season if you have some shade cloth or grow over them. Okay, so what's the difference between first and second planting? When these were harvested, I planted almost the next day the following crop. That's why I'm calling first early and then late planting. And then these pictures show you how they look. The first planting on 10/24, 20 days after treatment, after transplanting, and then like before harvest, a week or two, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before harvest. I mean, these are ready for harvest. It's just that they can grow a little bit more, okay? And see, here's different varieties, the red, the green, the Chinese cabbage, open leaf, the tatsoi, the spinach, the Asian. Okay, this compared to, yes? I'm sorry, I can't go back.
That's okay. What is the white?
This is white plastic.
White plastic.
White, like plastic mulch, but instead of black, it's white.
What about the difference between the white plastic and the black plastic?
Black plastic is great in fall and winter because it warms up the soil. White plastic is great in the summer because it doesn't warm up the soil too much. But in our conditions, I didn't see any difference. It's just what I had and I used it. So I wouldn't use it. I don't care white or black. It's not that much difference. Look at the second planting before harvest or at harvest. They just went into bolting 0, 0. You know, like really trash and garbage plant. But if you do that as a homeowner, as a home gardener, if you can afford to leave some of these plants, the bees, the wild bees, all that will love you for it because that's very few things that flower and they need food. Okay, so if you're not eating it and you don't need that space, leave them, let them flower. You can save the seed, or you can. And actually, there's a delicacy. I don't know, Vietnam. I forget what country. The flower tip that has some seeds and then some flour. You cut that and saute it and eat it, and it's crunchy. And it's very nutritious because seeds have the protein and the fat more than the leaves. So again, it's something you have to try it and see if you like it or not. But forget the seeds if you don't want to save seed or cooking them. The flowers are a great option for the wildlife, the wild bees and all the wild pollinators. Whereas the high tunnel, yes, sir?
Underneath your mat, do you have drip irrigation?
Yes.
And how are you regulating the amount of water that you're giving?
How do I regulate the amount of water? These are not very heavy water users, and in the fall it rained, so they're fine. They were fine, but I have a tensiometer, or for you, I would recommend until you learn, then get a soil moisture meter, something like good quality one, like $25. Not the $5, that's a toy. That's like putting your finger in the oven and then say, oh, it's $3.75. Okay, it tells you warm, hot. It doesn't tell you accurate. The $25 one, it's more accurate, and it tells you wet, moist, dry. I recommend you do that until you learn your situation. Really, there's no trick beside testing and taking a number. Okay. So. This is sandy soil. You cannot do that, but in areas where heavy soil and growers, the clayish soil is hard, but when it's moist, it's soft. So they step on the bed, they push on the bed, and they can tell how is it hard or soft, if it needs water or not. And you don't want it to be soft all the time, because you can rot. You know, you want it to dry in between watering. Okay. The problem, my experience, not the problem, the trick with Asian bok choy, Asian vegetables, is that they don't wilt. They don't, I mean, it takes forever for them to wilt. So don't say, oh, when it wilted, time to water it. By the time it wilts, it's been wilting for 2 weeks. So measure with a soil moisture probe until you learn. Okay, so look, the same plant at the same time, the ones outside bolted and they flowered and looked miserable and ugly, look at the same plants inside. So we have the opportunity in East Texas area to late planting for the cold. In your situation, early planting before, if you have put it in a high tunnel, it acts like some kind of shade to plant early, because if you plant it too early, it's too hot, and the bugs will eat them alive for you. Okay, so here are the different varieties, and this is the weight. So you'll see first planting did just as well as the high tunnel late planting, but the late planting was miserable. Well, not all of them, I take that back. Specialty pak choy, purple magic does not like late planting no matter what, but some did very well. Okay, so, and these are the same number expressed as a %. Okay, so we also worked with our colleague on this proposal, Dr. John Jiffan. He's here at this center, researcher. I hope you, we did the similar trial, and we tried, we did a field trial. Here are the information of the experimental design, drip irrigation, plastic mulch. Okay, so he did not use plastic mulch, as you can see in the middle picture, because too many holes to plant. Okay, he did not want to do the work. So you don't need the plastic mulch to get good yield. They don't need it. Okay. All right. So in Weslaco, you see beautiful plants, beautiful trial. And when you plant them, let's say 3 inches or 6 inches, they leaf out and they cover the bed so fast. Weeds are never an issue in between the plants, okay? So in his conditions, he observed that all the cool season crops except Chinese celery performed excellent. And Chinese celery at all locations took forever to germinate. And then when we, took forever to grow. So I want to know what the trick for that. So we don't use Chinese celery anymore. But if you go to an Asian store and Chinese celery tastes exactly like celery, but has more leaves and the stem are thinner and softer. So, I mean, less crunch. You don't have to feel like you had a jaw exercise eating celery. Okay, once over yield, like a one-time harvest, were comparable to commercial yields, what we were told that they will perform. The possibility of multiple cropping between October and March exists. That's what I told you. Here you have a long season, 6 months, starting October. You have shade, you cover them. You can even go earlier than October, maybe September. You will have to see if I'm right to try it. Of course, when it warms up in the spring, many of the varieties bolted, which we expect. And the cool season entries have potential, the last point here, you have potential for significantly higher yield in a control environment, meaning like in a greenhouse, because the conditions are uniform. You don't have warm days, cool nights, like the plants slow down or grow fast or grow slow. In a greenhouse, they're running full speed every day, all day. So you can have a higher yield. Okay, open field challenge. Everything was early except the Chinese celery. So look, when other varieties were ready for harvest, Chinese celery is still thinking about it. Do I want to grow? No, maybe no, I don't want to grow. No, I'm upset. I'm like a spoiled child pouting, Okay, and this is what happens when they bolt, when late spring. And with the yard-long beans, you can have some issues with them, doing what they call rat tailing, okay? But yard-long bean, anybody grows yard-long, you should try yard-long bean. It's a great plant, and literally, the fruit, the bean is this long, okay? And you can harvest it. And one plant is enough. Don't plant 10 plants. One plant, because if you harvest it carefully, that same spot will make another flower and grow again. Unlike other beans where one stem is one flower and you're done. You have to make another. That same stem that made that flower, you harvest carefully, it will make another flower. So one plant is enough, really. One plant is enough to have and harvest them. But if you start seeing the seeds, that's too late. So you really have to harvest them very early. And you're not eating the seeds. More open field challenges. You have beetles, white grubs, rabbits. You have those issues here. White grubs. I mean, hey, they're close to the ground. They're tasty. They grow fast. They don't have natural defenses like hairs or thorns or this. Every bug and insect and worm and a disease loves them. We did not see many fungi or bacterial diseases, maybe just because they were growing too fast and take them out before the problem gets started. Okay, we also did hydroponic. I'm gonna skip some numbers. By the way, this is what I mentioned earlier, rock wool. Its brand name is Grodan, if you like to use it. It's a great way to grow hydroponically. You don't have to use media anymore. This is becoming the standard in the industry. And again, we did them in these 3 different systems that I showed you before. And this is 38 days after seeding, not after transplant.